This is Ralph Notmeyer, an air carrier inspector for the Federal Aviation Agency. Today, he will inspect the en route operations of a Braniff flight from Washington, D.C. to Mexico City. The first place Ralph goes is to the Airline Operations Office, where he meets the pilot of today's flight, Captain Bob Mittendorf. He will observe the entire crew in the pre-flight planning, such as checking company dispatch release forms, current weather reports for their route, and preparations of the flight plan by co-pilot Joe Kennedy.
Cruising altitude. How's it looking from Dallas on to Mexico?
Down to approximately San Antonio, they have overcast, but Mexico is experiencing clear weather and temperature 71 degrees.
Later, Ralph will discuss the walk-around check with engineer Bob Ramsey.
Braniff International, Eldorado Superjet, Flight 51, from Washington to Dallas and Mexico City, now ready for departure, Gate 22. All aboard, please.
Oxygen mask regulators.
Check the set on the left.
On the right. Radios.
It's on. Check.
Check right. Clocks and altimeters.
Check left.
Set right. Auxiliary pump.
Ralph Notmeyer has been a licensed pilot for 26 of his 46 years, logging over 10,000 hours. As the other passenger, he represents each of the 60 million passengers who fly on United States Airlines every year. Today, he is making an en route check of the flight safety standards set by the men of industry and the Federal Aviation Agency. He is monitoring these safety standards by observing the proficiency of the crew, something the FAA does thousands of times every year.
Flight instrument.
No flags on the left.
Emergency brake.
Wired and pressure.
Fire control panel.
Check.
Exterior lights.
As required and off.
Anti-ice switches.
5 off.
Pitot heat. Checking off. Window closed. Heat low. Q heat. Checking off. Recorder. Testing off. Light override. Normal. Passenger oxygen.
Passenger normal.
Speed and smoke.
On.
Emergency exit lights.
Armed.
Stick shaker.
Check.
Rudder boost.
Rudder's on and pressure.
Spoilers.
On.
Emergency flap switches.
3 off.
Start switches.
5 off.
Autopilot pitot pressure.
It's on.
Galley switch.
On.
Fuel heaters.
They're off.
Fuel controls and boost pumps.
That's on.
Fuel quantity.
Test and check.
Refuel controls.
Normal.
Hydraulic quantity.
Check.
Hydraulic shutoff switch.
Open.
Start bottle pressure.
Check.
Oil cooler switch.
Normal.
Fuel dump cooler.
Close.
Oil instruments.
Test and check.
Pressurization system.
Check set.
Air conditioning system.
Check set.
Ground clearance gear doors.
They're closed.
Hydraulic pump switches. They're on. Interconnect. It's open. Hydraulic pressure.
Up.
Parking brake.
Set.
Okay.
Before the flight, Ralph will make certain that emergency gear in the cabin is operational and that the hostesses know its location and understand its use.
Cockpit from ground. Number 3 is clear. Turning 3. Ground 4. And right off. Okay, shut start.
Dallas Ground Control, Braniff 51. Standing by to taxi, IFR Dallas.
Ground 51, that's the Dallas ground control, cleared runway 1 left, wind 350 degrees at 5, altimeter is 2983, time 1337 Greenwich.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We'd like to welcome you aboard Braniff International, El Dorado Superjet Flight number 51, from Washington, D.C. to Mexico City, and making one intermediate stop in Dallas, Texas. Kindly fasten your seatbelt, and we recommend that you keep the belt loosely fastened in flight for your own comfort and safety. Please adhere to the no smoking sign until we are airborne, and we wish each of you a very pleasant trip. Thank you. Muy buenos días, señoras y señores. Una cordial bienvenida.
Ignition's on.
Braniff 51, cleared for takeoff.
Braniff 51, roger. Cleared for takeoff.
Braniff 6 miles, contact ground control 121.9. Wind 100 degrees, 1 correction at 4. Altimeter 3009. Time is 2046 and a half. Temperature 74. 180. Alpha 6 taxi.
600 is good. V1. Rotate.
Takeoff checklist.
Gear.
Okay, it's off.
Transponder.
Yeah, it's on.
Yaw dampers.
On?
Mop trim.
Yeah, it's on. Right out.
Landing lights.
Retracted off.
Seat smoke.
Split.
The crew of any aircraft that flies the 165,000 miles of airways is never alone. The FAA maintains 28 air traffic control centers that follow every airline jet flight for every mile and every minute of that flight, 24 hours a day, using the latest radar and radio equipment.
Braniff 51, request your altitude.
Braniff 51 is out of 13,000.
Braniff 51, roger. Climb and maintain flight level 310. Contact Indianapolis Center, 127.6 now.
Roger, Braniff 51, climb and maintain flight level 310. So long.
Captain Bob Mittendorf has flown with Braniff for half of his 48 years, starting with DC-3s. He has been flying jets for close to 3 years. When not on a scheduled flight, he still has the responsibility of keeping up to date on all phases of aviation. He has worked hard to obtain his position and retains it through continued proficiency which is not taken for granted, either by himself, his airline, or the FAA. Co-pilot Joe Kennedy started his flying with the Marines in World War II. Joe received his certificate as an airline transport pilot 10 years ago, and although a qualified electric captain, he is working toward his captaincy in jet equipment. Bob Ramsey, today's flight engineer, did most of his early flying as a naval aviator in World War II aboard the Enterprise. All Braniff engineers are working their way toward becoming airline pilots.
3701 Foxtrot, contact Washington Center 121.0. Or 121.0.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is your captain speaking. For your information, our position is over Memphis, Tennessee. This morning we're cruising at 31,000. Our ground speed is 620 miles per hour. Dallas weather is clear with a temperature of 75 degrees. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're now beginning our descent for landing into Dallas, Texas. To those passengers deplaning here on behalf of this crew, thank you for choosing Braniff International for your flight. For passengers continuing on through to Mexico City, ground time in Dallas, approximately 30 minutes.
Love Tower, Braniff 51, outer marker, inbound.
Braniff 51, Love Tower, number 3 to land. Follow Braniff DC 7, 4 miles out on final.
Roger, Braniff 51.
Huh? Yeah, do you see him by?
6,
He's just going by Thomas Jefferson.
Hey, get down.
All the greens, all the pressures.
Not all the gear pressures.
Okay, it's up.
And the skid.
Voices.
Speed burn.
Forward.
No smoking?
On.
Transponder radar.
Stand by.
Yaw damper?
To go.
Fuel heaters are off. Turbo compressors. Hydraulic quantity recheck.
Braniff 51, Love Tower, cleared to land. Wind 220 degrees, 8.
Roger, Braniff 51.
Yaw dampers off.
Okay, hydraulic quantity recheck. Four light. 110. 100. 90. 80 knots.
Ralph is checking a copy of the pilot's dispatch release for Flight 51. Here are the minute changes of such things as the conditions of airport lights, runway repairs, frequency changes of navigational aids. Any change in normal operation that would be of importance to the safety of the aircraft or its passengers. The observation of these are part of his duties, to observe and report the entire system, so, if necessary, corrective action can be taken. The airports of our country serve the world's largest network of air transportation, and safety is not restricted to the air. Each detail is monitored by the airport management, the airline, and the FAA. Here at the dispatch office, the entire flight is planned. Fuel loads, en route weather, possible alternate airports, and estimated time en route. The flight can only be released when the pilot and the dispatcher agree to the terms and conditions of the dispatch release, and both are jointly responsible for the safe operation of the flight. In their wildest dreams, the Wright brothers would never have envisioned the airplanes we enjoy today. They could not have predicted the safety of these planes, nor the complexity of maintenance which has risen with the speed and comfort of the aircraft we fly. Extremely high standards of safety have been set from conception to flight. Whether in the manufacture or the flying and servicing, the men of industry and government work together to keep the standards high and strive to exceed these standards. Every plane is under constant surveillance before, during, and after each flight.
Braniff 51, Love Ground Control. Runway 31 left. Wind 320 degrees at 10. Altimeter 2993. Time 1658.
Roger, Braniff 51.
Braniff 51, taxi into position, runway 31 left, and hold.
Your Travis and Electra on a right turn in east, just over Fair Park. Extend your downwind, follow him. 984, turning final, 31 right. American 984, cleared to land on white 31 right. Braniff 162, do you see the Electra?
Yeah, we got him over Fair Park.
Okay. 36, and can you stop short of runway 31 right?
61 Alpha, can do.
Okay, I'll be a jet landing on 31 right.
And North Tower American 779 behind the company 727 here.
American 779, roger, number 2 to land, follow 727 on file for 31 right.
Brana 51, runway 31 left, cleared for takeoff.
Brana 51, roger, cleared for takeoff.
Bonanza 61 Alpha, contact ground control 12149.
And your 100's good. V1, rotate.
American 984, turn right at the next intersection, contact ground control 12149, exit cleared, please.
Okay, we're turning off now.
Okay, thank you.
North Tower, Comanche 15, Papa, ready to go 31 right.
Comanche 15 Papa, hold short of the runway. American 779, cleared to land on runway 31 right.
Brana 51 is with departure control.
Brana 51, Dallas, departure control. Radar contact, climb and maintain. Flight level 200. Report leaving 5.
Here we're cleared to climb and maintain 200. Check out of 5.
Ralph is riding the jump seat today, but as an inspector for the FAA, he must be as fully qualified as the pilot on each type of plane he inspects. At the Aeronautical Center in Oklahoma City, each of the FAA's inspectors is trained and kept current in the ever-changing scope of modern aviation. His ground school activities will include time in the simulator and several hours of classroom instruction on hydraulics, communications, electronics, and instruments. Everything that makes an airplane fly.
Recovering strictly by the use of elevators.
FAA inspectors are checked for their own proficiency on each type of aircraft they inspect. And this is just as important as their ability to judge the flying skill of others. Ralph's flight check will duplicate the 6-month check he gives to airline pilots on their training flights. These flights, of course, do not carry passengers.
Engine failure in flight checklist.
Checklist.
Bell cutout.
Bell cutout complete.
Yaw
A
damper.
regular part of these checks are the emergency procedures practiced to perfection.
Start levers cut off. Okay, Ralph. Number 2 engine just failed also.
Thrust lever number 2. Start lever number 2. Central power
Simulated cut off.
checked on a good engine. Central power's on a good one. Engine shutdown checklist for number 2 engine.
113 idea.
Engine out checklist for number 2 engine simulated completed. Roger. Landing with utility pressure failure checklist.
All right, landing with no utility pressure. Start air compressor is off. Landing gear handle.
Okay, it's in the off position.
Okay, Captain, I have to extend the gear manually.
Now we should get our aux pumps back on.
Okay, aux pumps on.
Okay, number 2 coming on.
Are you ready for me to extend the gear?
Number 1 coming on.
Okay, speed is correct. Extend the gear.
Green light on the nose gear.
Roger.
Left gear is down, Rusty.
Roger.
All gear down, indicated down, Rusty.
Roger.
Very good. Didn't miss anything on that, Ralph. Your procedure for your engine failure was excellent. You didn't miss any of the items involved. Looked real good today.
Thank you, Andy.
Today, on Flight 51 to Mexico City, Ralph will not ask the crew to perform training maneuvers since the plane is carrying passengers. Also, this is an en route inspection, and he is concerned with how well they conform to required procedures. Flo Parker, like all hostesses, is required to take training in emergency procedures yearly. An integral part of the operation of an airline, a hostess's job is hard work. Maria Surgeon will have walked several miles by the time this flight is over.
Cream and sugar, thank you. Thank you, Maria.
Ladies and gentlemen, for those passengers on the left-hand side of the aircraft, in just a few minutes you will be able to see the pyramids of Mexico. Thank you. Señoras y señores, aquellos pasajeros al lado izquierdo del avión, dentro de breves minutos podrán ver las pirámides de México. Muchas gracias. Ladies and gentlemen, the captain has turned on the seatbelt sign. In a few minutes, we'll be landing at the central airport of Mexico City. Would you kindly fasten your seatbelt and please adhere to the no smoking sign when it appears for landing. Thank you and a very pleasant good afternoon. Señoras y señores, bienvenidos a México. Dentro de breves minutos estaremos aterrizando en el aeropuerto central.
59, Sierra, ¿me escucha? Afirmativo, para su información, el 3159 de Sierra, 8300 pies a la travesa de XD, al oeste del aeropuerto, instrucciones para aterrizaje.
Coca Alfa Golfa, la tránsito a la izquierda, 3 izquierda, reporte en viraje final. ¿Cambio? Runway 51, you're clear to land 23 left, the wind southwest 22 knots, over. Get down.
The air traffic control procedures used at Mexico City are identical to those used at all major airports throughout the world. Originally based on procedures developed in the United States, they have been adopted by the International Civil Aviation Organization.
Left 40. Left 40. Yacht Amper.
El Salvador está nivelado a 7500 sobre Caracol. Adelante, camión. Delta Alfa Azul, Caracol a tránsito a la izquierda, pista 13, Victoria de Tepex con las pistas 23, cometa.
Got 4 lights, 110. 100 knots. 90. 80.
All off.
And eyes. And a skid. It's off. Stay black, Sam. Reset. Pretty good estimate, though.
De Braniff International, procedente de Washington y Dallas, llegará por la sala número 5. Braniff
The
International.
passengers aboard Flight 51 have been the world's safest, and this safety extends as far as the American carriers fly, for the standards of flight and safety fly with them. Ralph Nothmeyer and the crew will now go over the entire flight, discussing in detail the operating procedures. The questions and answers that will follow are all a part of a routine en route inspection. Ralph will pay close attention to their comments. Later, he will file a complete report, not only on the crew's performance, but the plane, the communications, the airport conditions, the entire operation. In a few hours, Ralph will head back on another flight, again as the other passenger, with the responsibility of safety in flight.